first of all, it's huge for jiu-jitsu. I think that what's really going to determine how huge is whether there's like another one. For one event to happen is incredible for the sport, but I think that for there to be really lasting change, there needs to be multiple CJIs.
Hello, Jiu-Jitsu nerds. It is two Jiu-Jitsu nerds here ready to talk some Jiu-Jitsu with our nerdy glasses. So I feel like we're really fitting the brand here, Chris. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing really well. I'm here in Vegas, which is where you're going to be coming up here for the biggest weekend in grappling history. You're going to be there for ADCC. So how has things been going for that ADCC prep?
It's been hard. We're doing the camp with training at B Team now. I was on your show like 2 years ago, I think, and I did it from my apartment back in Chicago, and now I'm living in Austin training at the B Team. So I've been doing the camp with Dima Muravani, and he's been running a CJI ADCC blend camp, and it's just been 6 days a week of just like brutal pro training every day. So I feel good. I'm ready to be done with the training camp. I'm ready to just go compete, but feeling good.
Yes, I've definitely been seeing a lot of that training camp content coming from B Team. To catch up some of the audience, some of you guys might have seen Chris the last time he was on this channel. I would say both of us have grown quite a bit when it comes to our platforms. And I really wanted to reintroduce you to my audience because if you guys are not hip to what Chris is doing in the jiu-jitsu media space, he has been growing the Grappler's Diary, which you can find on Instagram, but it's also a newsletter that you could get through email. And then now I believe you've expanded your writing job into Flow Grappling as well.
Yeah, so Flow contacted me when I got into ADCC, and they asked me to do a 7-part column for them. So I've just done one article a week for them. I don't know what's going to happen after ADCC, but they wanted an ADCC, like a weekly, like check-in prep kind of thing. So I've been writing for Flow a little bit, which is something like they reached out to me years ago about writing for them. And I was like, oh yeah, let's do it. And they were like, cool, we'd love to have you. And it just never happened. So it was cool to finally do some work for them. The guys over there are cool.
Yeah, I definitely love all the content. I've been catching up with the Roots documentary that they have. And their content is all really highly elevated, really high production. And so I can totally understand why they decided to bring you on as a writer, because your writing is so polished. It is the best writing that we have in the jiu-jitsu scene. So I want to know when it started for you and what is the general premise of the style of writing that you do?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much. That's very kind to hear. I started writing when I graduated college. Like I didn't really write when I was, I wrote for school, but like I never wrote like to write. And I started when the pandemic hit, because I graduated college right when the pandemic hit. And I was like, I need to figure out a job. I was literally just, I need to figure out a job so I can make money and still have time to train every day. And writing was like a really easy way to do that, because I just happened to be pretty good at it. And so I started doing freelance writing. I started writing on a website called medium.com, which is like a blog site. And I would use that as like a portfolio to attract writing clients. And then eventually it kind of became like, well, why don't I just write about like jiu-jitsu stuff that I'm doing? Maybe people will like that. If they don't, I'll just stop doing it. And so I started doing that I started the Instagram page a little over a year ago. I've had the newsletter for 3 years, I think. So it's been a while that I've been writing, but it's the process is really oriented just towards jiu-jitsu practitioners. And like when I was a white belt, I used to always Google like different questions, like how much weight should I cut? How hard should I train? How many days a week should I train? Like things like that, like white belt questions that are like, when you start, you don't know the answer. And I just decided to answer those questions now. I've been training for almost 10 years, and I know most of the like things that I needed to know at white belt. So I just kind of write that stuff, the stuff that I wish I knew at white belt and blue belt and purple belt, even like a few years ago. And that's kind of the process that I use for all the Grappler's Diary content.
And I'm sure it helps with your own jiu-jitsu journey as well, because you're not only reflecting, but you're also figuring out how to make this consumable for other people who want to read your content. I think it's really cool that a lot of the content is tailored to whatever platform you're using. So on Twitter, I catch it a bunch. On Instagram, you do the photo screenshots. And typically on Instagram, it's not really a platform where you post much other than pictures and instant gratification videos, but it looks like your content on Instagram has really been popping off as well. So what is kind of the creative process when you're like thinking of different topics to post on your different platforms?
Well, it's funny that you say that because like for the Grappler's Diary, I keep thinking, okay, I got to figure out a way to do like some reels or some videos or something. But like to this point, it's just words. It's nothing else at this point, which is I think kind of cool because we're closing in on 10,000 followers. And so it's pretty cool that we've gotten that far literally just by posting words every day. I think that kind of speaks to the impact and hopefully the quality of the content that's going out. You know, I put time into it, so I like to tell myself that it's good. You know, I think what really makes it one thing that helps is on Instagram, it's really easy to share stuff to your story. So like every day when I post it, it's like I have like 40 plus notifications of people who are regular readers of the page who share it to their story. And the other thing is like the format that I use is like very scannable. Like you don't have to read the whole thing. It's like there's a headline and then it's a list. Pretty much 9 times out of 10 it's a list, and it's like in bold is the main point of the list. And so if you want to, and a lot of people do this, they don't even read the post. They just read the headline and the 5 bold things, and that's enough, you know. And then if you really like it, then you can keep reading the fine print, you know. And that's why I put like jokes and stuff like that, you know. But it's like just kind of simple, shareable, and it's short, you know. So it's also easily scannable, and that's kind of the process that I use when I'm trying to create things for the Grappler's Diary.
And when people think of writing sometimes in this day and age or reading content, they kind of think of maybe either very straightforward or boring content. But I think the fact that you put like a humorous twist on it is something that really resonates, especially with the jiu-jitsu community and our sense of humor. I think some of the examples that come to mind is like what your favorite submission says about you, or that's like a funny topic that you do. But then you'll also dive into topics like, you know, what makes a gym a McDojo, or what makes a coach not a great coach. And it sometimes dives into some more serious topics. So in your opinion, what is your favorite type of content that you write? Like, what do you feel like is the most fulfilling?
Okay, Alex, can I 1 second? I gotta open the door. I locked it on accident. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good.
Okay, cool. We just edit that part. The question was the content that I find the most enjoyable to write.
Yeah, or fulfilling.
Yeah. So I think that the stuff that's the most fun for me, it kind of depends. I think that the easiest thing to write is like the kind of the rage bait, where I like take somebody's long held beliefs about something, like, and I just say the opposite. Like, oh, this, like, everyone in jiu-jitsu thinks takedowns are dangerous, so I'm like, this is why takedowns are not dangerous. Or, you know, everybody buys, like, you know, everybody like thinks their gym is the best, so I'm like, hey, these are the signs that your gym is not the best. You know, so stuff like that is
why
really,
the gi is dead.
Yeah, why the gi is dead. Stuff like that is really easy to do, and you can kind of keep it like light and silly. I also, you know, selfishly, I like to write the stuff that's like kind of reflecting on my experience, you know, competing and traveling and doing all that stuff, because I think that's what's fun for me, is like just being able to talk about what's happening. So I think that the page is kind of a balance between like what is performing well and then what I want to do. And I think that's like all creative work. It's like a balance of like what performs well and what is like, you know, what is my soul into the project or whatever.
And one of the posts I remember was top jobs that you could do that ensure that you're getting as much training as possible: remote work, content creator, writer. Since you have all the experience in the writing department, what would your advice be to someone who is maybe coming out of college, they're a jiu-jitsu nerd, they're starting to realize that they don't want to be working 9 to 5 every day and not have so much time to train? If they want to get into the writing sector, what would be your first tips that maybe you wish you knew early on in your writing career?
I think that the two biggest things are to one, start writing content on social media. Because like the amount of like gigs that I've gotten just like literally just from the Grappler's Diary is crazy. I've gotten like sponsors for the newsletter. I've gotten, gigs writing for random gear companies. I got a gig writing for someone like just because I connected with them through the page. So it's like you never really know who like what's gonna lead where you want it to go. So I think the first thing would be write on social media, and practice. Like you have to publish a lot. And then the second thing would be start a newsletter. So you have like a hub for like more kind of refined work. So like every week I do 5 Instagram posts, and then I do a paid newsletter. So I do that for like, people can pay like $10 a month and they can join my paid sector. And then I do 1 or 2 articles for that. And then I do 1 free article on Friday. So it's really not that much work. It's like 3 articles per week, which I guess in hindsight, that's, if you had told me when I was beginning, that would be a lot of work. But like, if you want to be a writer, you should be able to write 1 article per week and 5 small ones. That's like kind of what I would say is like start small and write on social media and build a newsletter.
And I'm sure the stamina for writing builds up over time in that certain articles, unless it's like a hard topic, it doesn't feel as much. I do have a question pertaining the current events in the jiu-jitsu scene. Obviously, you're training at B Team, so you're kind of in the midst of it all. They have a angled wall built out for the CJI folks that are going to be competing, and then you guys are also training ADCC rule sets, so it's just a whole lot of competitive energy in the B Team world right now. So when all this drama, before the official announcements of CJI, what was your initial take on all this? Like, did you think that it would transpire the way that it has?
No, I did not predict it. I remember, so I took 4th in the West Coast trials at 88 kilograms, and I also medaled in the European trials. So I was like just out of reach for getting into ADCC. So it was like a crazy kind of saga that happened. I remember like when they first announced, after the trials, it was like, we're not close enough to get an invite, but like we had a good, I had a good trials run, whatever, and we'll just get ready for next year. And then I was flying to South Carolina to do a seminar, and I'm on the airplane and I check Instagram and it's about to take off, and I see William Tackett get announced for CJI, and I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like people are actually going to do it. And then later that day they announced his brother, and then they announced ADCC announced Elder Cruz replacing William Tackett, and I'm like, oh shit, this is like, there's like, I'm doing the math, I'm looking at all the guys in the bracket, I'm like, I gotta be in the conversation to get in ADCC now. And so it was just like a really crazy few weeks, and it was like every day we're checking to see who gets announced, and talking to Mo and like seeing where I stand and all this stuff. So it was a crazy saga, and it was really like unpredictable. Like anything that like it did not happen at all how we predicted it to happen. But I'm just like really grateful that I'm going to be able to go compete in one of these massive tournaments, next week.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing. Obviously, the production that ADCC is putting on is, a big, big development that's been in the works for a while. So I'm so happy for you. It's kind of just unreal that this is all happening so quickly, but it's good to see that the people who have been putting in the work are getting rewarded. So when you look at ADCC and the competition that you have, are you like on the edge of your seat waiting to know who is going to be your first round? And also, what are your expectations for this ADCC coming up?
Yeah, so it's weird because it's like it's my first one. I think that I have like I match up really well with like some of the like top guys in the division, like guys like Couch, and me and Jay have had like we had a really close match at the trials. I've had a close match with or I trained with Taylor Pierman, and other guys who are like really dangerous in that bracket, and I know how like I do against them, and I do pretty well. So I'm like, if they're considered favorites, even though maybe I don't get as much like love from the flow grappling or whatever, but like I know how I do against those guys, so I know that I have a chance. And I think that I'm kind of like a dark horse. I think that I could upset some guys, and I think that I'm probably not going to be expected to upset them, and I think that I can use that in my favor.
Yeah, I definitely think there is potential for a lot of upsets across the board that weekend. Will you be paying any attention to CJI? I know after ADCC probably you'll take a look into it more, but when you hear that this news of $1 million being awarded to both brackets, this is the biggest payday in grappling history. So like, is this really, you feel like, a turning point in jiu-jitsu, and obviously something that you're going to be paying some attention to?
To really force ADCC to pay the athletes more over time, because for there to if there's one CJI and then someone wins $1 million, that's great. That'll change two people's lives. But if it never happens again, that could be like that would kind of suck, because ADCC is going to then lose the incentive to like push the sport forward, and they probably will. I think there's been like some noise, but like in order for them to really like push the sport, the competition needs to continue, in my opinion. But I think that just the fact that it's happening is so big for the sport, and it's like like you've seen a lot of the best guys jump ship, which I think shows how big the event is going to be. And I think it's going to be just a crazy. And I was watching the bracket reveals this week. Like, I'll definitely be watching the event. And for like the days, kind of like if you're like people are always saying like, oh, which one are you going to go to? The times for CJI really suck for like competitors of ADCC, because it's like during CJI day 1 I got to go weigh in. During CJI day 2 I'm going to be like competing. So it's like, it sucks for me. I probably won't be able to make it, but like I'm definitely going to watch it. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, free on YouTube, so super easily accessible. Is there any sponsors, teammates, anything you got going on that you want to let the audience know about? The floor is yours.
So my sponsors, I had some, really good sponsors for the ADCC camp take care of me. It was nice, like my whole camp, I didn't really have to think about anything except for just like jiu-jitsu and like the Grappler's Diary. That's literally all I've done for the last like 8 weeks, which is really nice. So shout out to my sponsor for gear, Marshall Paradise, Gym 1801 in Evanston helped me out. Guam Nutrition, BJJ Mental Models, all those guys, they helped me out, and I really have had like a great ADCC prep because of them, so really grateful for them. Also, just people can check out the Grappler's Diary on Substack and on Instagram. Those are my two kind of main things. And then also follow me if you want to on Instagram.
Want to keep up with all the latest and greatest news that I'm covering? Be sure to follow my socials at Alex Wendling X. I'm on Twitter/X. I'm on Instagram, and then of course my YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe here. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the things that I am covering in the future. If you enjoyed that interview, be sure to check out this one.